Hey, how are you? I'm great. Thank you for asking. I'm going to tell you about my super duper ridiculously ambitious plan for October. So the way I do my October reads is I roughly plan probably about double the amount of books I'm actually capable of reading and then just sort of mood read them. So I'll tell you kind of what I'm feeling right now for the month and then we'll see at my wrap up what I actually read among these. I'm kind of laughing because right now it's October 2nd and I'm currently reading six books at once, which is a problem. I try to keep it down to three, like one physical, one ebook, one audiobook, and I've kind of gone under control. So I blame it on the book I've been reading the longest now, which is this bad boy, Stephen King's It. My edition is almost 1,500 pages, and I'm about a third of the way through. And it's just such a chunk. And I've read a lot of King, so I'm kind of used to his bloated writing, but this is something else. And I really want to read it this month. I really want to finish it because if I don't finish this by Halloween, I don't know if I'll ever read it, and I might have to DNF it. And I don't want to. I've heard a lot of people tell me the book's really good, except for that one scene I'm aware of. But otherwise, that the book is really good. So I've been looking forward to reading it, but I've just been kind of putting it off for the last little while. Haven't picked it up much in the last 2 months. So that's one of the 6 books I'm reading. The next one is Battle Royale. So also kind of October-y, so October-y spooky. In case you didn't know that Battle Royale was a book, it wasn't. It's a novelization of the movie, but it's really, really good. I'm liking this a lot, actually. It's very entertaining and kind of unintentionally funny sometimes. I have about a quarter of the book left. I'm hoping to finish this within the next few days. And what else am I reading? I'm also currently reading Upgrade by Blake Crouch. I wanted to finish this by the end of September, and you might notice it actually expires in 3 days. My library loan is expiring in 3 days, so right now it's October 2nd. This should be read by October 5th. If I haven't read this by the end of October, that's going to be a problem because it's going to mean I failed at reading 100 pages in 3 days, and my pace is usually faster than that, so. What else? Okay, those are 3. The other 3 I'm reading on audiobook. I currently have 2 going on. The first one is The Daughter of Dr. Moreau. I've actually read about 80% of this, but I didn't manage to finish it before I needed to give it back to the library, so it's currently just a hold, and as soon as I get it back, I think I can finish it in a day. It's also really good. I really like this author's work quite a lot. It's the second book of hers that I've read, and yeah, I'm excited to finish the book. Otherwise, I've also been listening to Babel, and I got it both on ebook and on audiobook, and my audiobook is due at the library in a few days, and just the audiobook is so good. The narration is so good. The detailing is so good. I'm enjoying it so much more because I'm listening to it that I don't want to give it back, but it's due I think tomorrow. So that's also something I really need to finish this month / tomorrow. And lastly, the book I'm technically reading is 1,000 Ships. So when I say technically, it's because I started it. I got it about 3% through, not far through at all. And then I was like, wait, I just read Electra. I just read Electra, I think 4 days earlier. It's just the holds came through from the libraries back to back. And I was like, I don't want to read another retelling of the Iliad right now. So I ended up returning the book and then re-borrowing it. And right now I have about 2 weeks left on the hold, so I'm hoping to actually read it in October. Whew. Okay. So that's those. So that's 6 books I'm currently reading. What do I actually want to start in October? So the other 2 that are kind of on my docket, almost that I have to read, not homework, but kind of close to that, are the 2 advanced readers copies that I recently got from NetGalley that I'm really excited about. So the Trauma Beat is about how true crime is reported on and how tragedy is reported on and the effects that has on the victims, perpetrators, and the journalists is kind of the idea. I'm somewhat into true crime and I'm really interested in the ethics of it. and I feel like this book will touch a lot on that. And then the second advanced reader's copy that I have is for Hourglass. And I really don't know a lot about this book. It was just marketed as literary fiction. I applied to get it, and I did, and I have no idea what to expect. I don't even think I've read the summary, actually. But the cover was just really, really pretty. I just thought that was a really gorgeous cover. In terms of physical books that I have, this looks perfect for spooky season. The Icepick Surgeon. So the Icepick Surgeon, kind of set it behind the book, sorry. So this is by Sam Keen, and it's basically about terrible things that scientists have done in the name of science. So I actually got my PhD last year-ish. I defended last year. So technically I'm a scientist, and I'm very interested in ethics in general, as I mentioned when I was talking about the trauma beat. And just in general, I'm really interested in ethics, and I'm really interested in human beings who think they're doing right and justify doing horrible things because of that. So I feel like this book will really show a lot of that. I'm really excited. There's pictures in it, and I also managed to get my library to buy the audiobook, so I might like duet audio physical book this. That was a sentence. Those were words. You understood what I meant, right? Yeah. Okay. I'm glad you understood. I'm getting really excited about books, but I have my cup of tea here trying to remind me to relax. So let's take a deep breath. Let's relax. And I'm just looking at my list on my computer here. What do I want to listen to on audiobook this month? A couple of things. And again, these are all possibilities depending on how the mood strikes me. There's Bunny, because I like dark academia. I'm sorry, I'm basic in that way. I like it. It's fun. Bunny's supposed to be like dark academia meets Heathers. I love Heathers. It's a great movie. So I'm very excited for that. The other thing I might listen to on audiobook is An Immense World by Ed Yong. As I mentioned in my September wrap-up, I really like nature writing. I've gotten really into it, and I really, really like the way Ed Yong specifically writes. I think he has a very interesting perspective on science and is probably one of the best science writers right now. So I'm very excited to see what he has written about in this recent book. So that's pretty hype. Otherwise, I think the third audiobook that I have a hold on is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Because now and again, I mostly like to read serious things, but now and again, I just need a dumb thriller or a dumb YA, or ideally a dumb YA thriller, which might be selling this book short. I've heard some good things, but largely it just sounds entertaining, and that's kind of what I need, especially if I'm reading a lot of like darker or more real stuff or more serious stuff. Dark but funny, or dark but entertaining, over the top, I can get behind that very much. And then there's a bunch of stuff that I want to get as ebooks. So one of the first things is I really, really want to read Salem's Lot this month. The reason I want to read Salem's Lot is because I am obsessed with Mike Flanagan's Midnight Mass. I recently rewatched it. I grew up Catholic. That is exactly the brand of Catholic I grew up as. Midnight Mass just really spoke to me. I loved it. If you haven't seen it, please watch it. It's great. It's slow-paced and wonderful, and everyone always says it's basically Salem's Lot, and I've read the short story, but I haven't read the book. And I keep telling myself I don't like vampire fiction, but that's not true. I've read a lot of vampire fiction, and I want to read more vampire fiction, so I need to read the classics. So Salem's Lot and It, the two Stephen King books of the month. Oh, I want to read Project Hail Mary. So I actually wanted to read this, I think, in July or August. It feels like a summer book, but the hold at my library was really long. So I think it only recently came through. I want to say I borrowed it and it's actually due in 2 weeks, so I probably need to get on that. I've heard it's really, really good. That's all I really know about it. I started reading Artemis a while back and I DNF'd it, but I saw that everything, like, reviews were really bad of it, so I decided not to bother. But I've heard that Project Hail Mary is, like, amazing. And a lot of people find it amazing. So I'm really, really excited to see what that's about. I'm also going to be reading The Candy House, and I haven't read the previous book, but I think the summary of it just really intrigued me, and I think it was mentioned at one of my book clubs, and it just sort of caught my eye. I got curious, and again, the library hold was like 28 weeks or something ridiculous. The hold has now come through, meaning I have to read it or postpone my hold. One of the two. The other books I was thinking of reading, again, this is too many. See, I have a problem. I have a problem of wanting to read too many books. I really want to read some more horror this month because it's spooky season. So I'm looking at My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Johnson? You know who I'm talking about, this book. I really liked The Only Good Indians. It was, I think I was a little confused by the writing style because he writes really critical, like, points of action are written very briefly, while then there's lots of long descriptions of sort of like atmosphere. So I almost missed some of the action, if that makes sense, as I was reading. But I've been thinking back to that book for quite a while. I think I read it probably over a year ago now. And I'm really curious about My Heart is a Chainsaw. It looks really interesting. I don't know a lot about it, but it just looks really interesting. And other books on my docket are also How to Be Eaten, which is a retelling, like a modern day support group for fairy tale survivors. Like, I think there's like Ariel comes to this group, and like Gretel from Hansel and Gretel, and like stuff like that. Those might not be some of the characters, but that's the general idea, is like a modern therapeutic setting for these like fairy tale princess people. So that sounds fun. Again, if the mood strikes. And finally, I have been eyeing The Murder of Richard Ackroyd for a while. Again, this is just kind of like if the hold comes through, if I feel like a detective novel. I read a ton of Agatha Christie as a kid and haven't much lately. I reread And Then There Were None not too long ago. I loved it. I loved it then, I love it now. So I'm really excited to read a little more. And I don't remember if I read this book because I was reading Agatha Christie in like 2005. So it's been a while. So I have no idea if I've read this. I don't know the plot. And then lastly, a few more. I'm looking at my list and it's very incoherent because this is way too ambitious. Other things I'm thinking are A Flicker in the Dark, because it had a super long hold and now the hold is about 4 weeks, so maybe I'll get it in October. Who knows? I'm also thinking of Neil Gaiman's Trigger Warning because I've been meaning to read it for years, probably. I really like Neil Gaiman's work. I liked his other short story collections. I just never got around to this. Speaking of, Act 3 of Sandman dropped today, so that's technically on the reading list. We'll see. Like, the Audible full cast production dropped today, and I've been really enjoying listening to those while rereading the comics. So I might add that to October. I'm not good at moderation. The last book that I'm very tempted by is also short stories, and it's The Things We Lost in the Fire by Mariana Enriquez, I believe. And I loved her other collection so much, like The Dangers of Smoking in Bed. It was so twisted and weird, and like some of the stories just are like engraved in my mind forever. So I'm really, really excited to pick that up. But as you can see, I have a TBR of like 20 books, and the most books I've read in a month this year is probably something like 12 or 13. So this is super duper ambitious. Overly ambitious, really. And my library borrowing habits have also been overly ambitious lately. but there's just so many good books to read, and I'm so excited about them all the time, and I'm so happy that books exist. So it's really hard to choose. It's so hard to choose because then my book club is like, oh, let's also read this. And I'm like, yeah, let's also read that. Let's also read that. Oh, I want to reread this. And this is my constant struggle. So thank you for listening to me vent about my struggle. Thank you for commiserating with me. I don't quite know. As struggles go, this is a pretty easy one, I would say. So yeah, I'm really excited to finish some of the chunks I'm currently reading. I'm really excited to dive into some of these books. Are you reading any of these this month? Have you read any of these recently? Did you like them? I would love to hear kind of what you have planned for October, especially because it's spooky season. I'm not going fully spooky with my books because, again, I'm a mood reader. I can't force myself to read a certain kind of thing at a certain kind of time. I will just end up in a reading slump. But I'm really curious as to what you're reading this month, so yeah, let me know. Let's talk about it. I love books, you love books. That's why we're in this parasocial relationship, right? All right, well, I've talked very fast, so thanks so much for watching this video. It's been a lot of fun telling you about my very ambitious goals, and I wish you just a wonderful evening. Okay, I'll see you next video. Bye. Thank you.